The Timberwolves just embarrassed the Nuggets in Game 2 on their home court, holding them to just 80 points without Rudy Gobert, officially taking control of this series. We got a lot to talk about as we recap this one, so let's get right into it. But first, Wolves back.
Howl, beat up game, boy.
So today started out on a bit of an interesting note because it was reported kind of out of nowhere that Rudy Gobert was listed as questionable on the injury report due to personal reasons. So obviously this was super concerning because nobody at this point knew what was going on, but figured it had to be serious enough if he's questionable for a playoff game. But then a couple hours later, we found out that his girlfriend gave birth to their first child and Rudy stayed in the Twin Cities for the birth. However, Rudy was still trying to make it to Denver in time for the game, and the pilot of the private jet that he was flying on tweeted this: "Slight delay, but looks like we'll be able to make it in time for tip-off." But then a little later he said, "Flight had to turn around. The Wolves will win this one for Rudy." So obviously as a fan, I was definitely bummed that Rudy wasn't going to be playing, but I definitely respect the commitment to family and just want to wish him and his girlfriend and their newborn son nothing but the best. And Rudy wasn't the only Timberwolves player with his son tonight, because Nickeil Alexander-Walker got to spend plenty of quality time with his son Jamal Murray. More on that in a second, but let's get into these highlights first and see how this one played out. So Aaron Gordon was going crazy in the first quarter, seemingly hitting everything. The Wolves were daring him to shoot, and he did just that. He went 5 for 7 from the field, 2 for 3 from long distance in the first, which was huge for Denver. Also huge for Denver was the lead they eventually gave up. But anyways, Cat started out hot as well, scoring 11 in the first. And speaking of Cat, this sequence here was insane. Cat got away with what probably should have been called a charge, but there was no whistle and Cat scored the layup. Then I think this was the next Wolves possession, but Ant rose up for a layup and he accidentally kneed KCP right in the Denver Nuggets, and Michael Malone proceeded to lose his freaking mind, screaming in the face of Mark Davis and having to be restrained and pulled away. So I'm sitting here at home watching this unfold and I'm like, dude, no way. Michael Malone is about to get thrown out in the first quarter. But nope, didn't get thrown out. In fact, he didn't even get a freaking technical. How do you not get a technical for that? Anyways, the Wolves took a 28-20 lead after the first quarter, and holding Denver to 20 points in a quarter without Rudy Gobert is super impressive. They mixed up their coverage on Jokic with Cat starting on him, a little Kyle Anderson, and then Naz Reid when he checked in. I also thought it was interesting that they rolled with Kyle Anderson to start the game at the 4. I thought for sure they were going to roll with Naz, but they went with Kyle, and you can't argue with the result. And hey, remember when I said that holding the Nuggets to 20 points in a quarter is super impressive? Well, you know what's even more impressive? Holding them to 15 the very next quarter. And when I say that Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are two of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, I mean it 100%. Absolute straight jacket clamp city defense, making life miserable for the Nuggets all night. It wasn't just those two either. Everybody was flying around, rotating and contesting everything. They made Denver work super hard for every bucket all night. There was zero easy baskets for them. Honestly, Denver looked really frustrated. They were clearly bothered by the Wolves' physicality. Anthony Edwards woke up in the second. He scored 12 points in the quarter and finished with 16 in the half. The Wolves went into the break up 61-35, which was the largest halftime lead in a road playoff game against a defending champ since 1992, 32 years ago. Unreal. I was honestly a little nervous for the second half despite having the big lead, just because, I mean, dude, this is the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic we're talking about here. But I had no reason to worry because the Wolves came out of the break with that same level of intensity and maintained a 22-point lead going into the fourth. Almost every time the Nuggets started to get something going, the Wolves responded right back and just never let the momentum swing too much. Overall, they just look like the more composed and mature team, which is absolutely wild to say about the Timberwolves when they're playing a team that's led by Nikola Jokic. We even got to see a few minutes out of G League GOAT Luka Garza and the rest of the bench ensemble as the Nuggets waved the white flag with a few minutes left. So the superb, spectacular,
sensational
Timberwolves got the win 106-80, absolutely curb stomping the reigning champs on their home floor, with Wolves and 4 chants cascading down from the Minnesota faithful that were in attendance.
Open shot here, the free will go.
Alright, so taking a look at the box score quick, Ant and Cat both went for 27, and I thought this was easily the best playoff game of Cat's career. He set the tone early on offense, and I honestly thought he did a solid job on Jokic despite picking up some very Cat-esque fouls throughout the game. But the real MVP of this one was Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He played 30 minutes off the bench and went 4 of 7 from 3, scoring 14, plus adding 2 blocks and 6 boards. So this is wild. Last game, Jaden finished with 0 points and was still a plus 14 plus minus in the game. And in this one, he finished with just 5 points, but was a team high plus 26, which is just freaking ridiculous. This kid is a special talent defensively, and him and Nickeil are 2 of the biggest reasons that we won tonight. And here's the proof. Jamal Murray shot 3 for 18 and finished with 8 points. Jokic was held to just 16 points, and the Wolves just swarmed him and sped him up enough to get him out of his rhythm all game. He never looked comfortable, never really looked like himself. But going back to Murray for a second, despite the poor shooting, he low-key went off, dude. I mean, look at the stat line. 8 points, 4 turnovers, 1 heat pack thrown, 1 money gesture, and somehow 0 technical fouls. What a night. This dude threw a heat pack onto the court while the Timberwolves were on offense. If he doesn't get suspended for game 3, what are we even talking about? Can you imagine if somebody slipped on that and got injured? They would need a heat pack to recover. Anyways, before I get out of here, I want to highlight some insane stats from this game. Stat number 1, the Nuggets shot 35% from the field. Stat number 2, the 80 points that the Nuggets scored tonight was their lowest point total of the entire season. Stat number 3, Naz Reid. All right, let me speak freely here for a second. This Timberwolves team, they're special, man. They're special. You don't get this good on defense by accident. This is one of the most connected, cohesive teams I've ever seen in my life, especially a Timberwolves team. It's just a team full of dogs that are willing to compete. They execute at a high level. They communicate on defense. They're flying around. They're rotating. They're playing for each other. Everybody knows their role. They embrace it. They're locked in. They're super focused. And look, I just want to remind everyone, all of us Minnesota Timberwolves fans, just enjoy this. Just take a deep breath. Savor this moment. This is crazy. Teams like this don't come around often, especially in Minnesota. So let's enjoy this. All right, that's enough out of me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. But first, Wolves back.